Welcome to the Bigfoot Cafe. What's on the menu? Everything.
It's food for thought.
Hello and welcome to the Bigfoot Cafe. Hope you're all doing all right out there tonight. With me, as always, is my co-host Jay Birch. How you doing, Jay?
Great, thank you. It's good to see everybody. Great, thank you.
And I believe you're another year older now.
Yeah, I am.
Celebrating this weekend. But happy
59 years old.
Years young. Years young. And it's just a number, isn't it? It's just a number. So our guest tonight, some of you might have recognised him from the researcher's report over on Bigfoot Odyssey a couple of weeks ago. We didn't really get into a lot of detail, well, as much as I wanted to. That's why I invited him on our show tonight. He's an author, he's a musician, he's a cryptopunkologist. We'll have to get into that. I'm not sure what that's about. Sure. And he's also part of a researcher for the New York Bigfoot Society, and he co-hosts the New York Bigfoot Society radio show with Gary Robusto. But our guest tonight is Kenney Irish. How are you doing, Kenney?
I am fantastic. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday to you. Thanks for coming on. I know we only spoke a couple of weeks ago, but I really didn't feel like we'd gone into a lot of detail. We talked about all sorts of stuff, but I wanted to know more about what you're doing and your book that's just come out recently, a few months ago. And just tell us a little bit how you got into all this.
Like many young, goofy-looking little kids, I used to love to run around in the woods, and I loved monsters. I loved Godzilla, King Kong, the Incredible Hulk growing up, and it, that was kind of like what kind of led me into legends and different areas and subjects of that manner. And just growing up I grew up in northern Vermont, and the only cryptid that I had ever heard of at that point in time was Champ, because I lived near Lake Champlain. So every time we were out near the lake, I was constantly looking for Champ, hoping that I would find Champs. Never got an opportunity to see him or her, but I haven't given up yet either. So I'm going to keep going. And other than that, as I got older and got into high school, I took a class that, different cryptids and legends and myths were brought up at that point in time in that class. And that's when I kind of started looking more into other creatures other than Champ, and that childhood passion and imagination that I had kind of came back to me at like 18 years old, and from there I just kind of went from there, and just kind of started looking into different backgrounds of different creatures, werewolves, which nowadays I believe everybody calls Dogman, but I believe Dogman or werewolves, and just kind of always just kind of had that passion for that this type of subject, and it's just been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
That's cool. What about your musical side then, the punk side to this? What's that?
Yeah, so I grew up listening to all my dad's music, which was like 50s and 60s, and then one day I got introduced to some more modern bands, and I started listening to a lot of what they called like hair bands, like Motley Crue, different bands like that. And I enjoyed it, but I don't know, for me, it kind of felt like there was something missing. And then I got introduced to the band The Misfits, and it's all kind of uphill, downhill for me from there. And so I'm a big fan of punk, ska, and metal. And I started playing guitar for this one band that I was with when I was like 15 or 16, and of course I had never played guitar, and none of us had played anything. We just got instruments for Christmas, so we got together, and it was a total complete disaster, but we knew no different. And from there on, I just I kept playing and picked up a couple other instruments, and I ended up getting in some bands when I was in my 20s, and one of them we did very, very well in. We put a lot of albums out. We were in different, different radio stations, different aspects of the music business, and I did pretty much all the booking for the band. And like I said, we did real well. We were big in Puerto Rico. We don't know how we became big in Puerto Rico, but we became big in Puerto Rico. But the music business, it's pretty much, it's a vampire, and it just sucks the life and blood out of you. And I've retired from playing instruments on stages. So the room I'm actually sitting in right now is where all my amplifiers and guitars are. So I just play it on my own. So again, I've officially retired any stages, but other than that, I still play off and on. So, but it's just again, I'm just a big fan of anything punk, ska, and metal.
You like the classic punk? You know, Joan Jett started out.
Yes. Yes.
I love her.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's kind of, where, cause I have people say, what's up with the crypto punk? And it's like, well, me and Gary were kind of joking around one day because, I always kind of have some type of a weird hairdo or weird, hawk type of thing on my head. And even though, on my phone right now, looking at this, I look like one of the lollipop kids the way my hair is, but from the Wizard of Oz. But so it was just kind of, there's cryptozoologists out there, that are, really deserve that title. And, even though I study it, I'm definitely not at that level. And I work in sales and marketing for my day job. And, when you're selling books and you're doing different things, marketing is huge. And, sticking out and, calling myself a cryptozoologist, I just would kind of blend in with all the other folks. So I just kind of came up with like kind of like you do in bands, you kind of have like a stage name type of thing. A lot of the band members, obviously those aren't their real names. So I'm like, well, I'm going to do the same thing. And so I'm pretty much, mixing my love for music and passion for music with cryptozoology and just just cryptids and just putting it all together. So we just came up, it started out funny, it's just the Cryptopunkologist, but then I'm like, wow, that's memorable and marketable, and people are going to ask, what does that mean? And if you get people talking to you, they're also going to want to look into you and maybe purchase your books or your T-shirts and and find out more about what you're doing. So
yeah,
so that's how it came about.
Yeah, well, it popped out to me. That's why obviously I took it and wanted to get you on. So, well, let's talk about your book. Was it a couple of months ago when it came out?
Yeah, June.
Come out in June. Give us a summary of it and how you did your research.
Sure. Yeah. So the book, I can't tell you how many different outlines I had for this book, because I was trying to write something that obviously, one, I was going to be proud of, but two, that I wasn't just doing what everybody else was doing. Because all the greats, have already, written books, and I just saw what I was writing was pretty much just rewriting everything that they already wrote. And I wanted to do something different. So it's kind of like a, to be honest with you, one way to put it, kind of like a travel guide, I guess. Because each chapter I cover all 50 states, and each chapter starts out with, just some history on the state, like when it achieved its statehood, different historical landmarks. It mentions those. If there's like a famous food that comes from that area, I may have mentioned that. So again, it's just kind of like a little travel guide type of adventure, if you will. And then from there, it goes into mentioning celebrities that were born in the state, and what they kind of where they came from, and how they became celebrities. And then from there, I highlight a Native American tribe, because anybody who knows me and who has talked to me enough knows that my research comes from like 100 years ago. I don't really research anything from like nowadays. I go back to the Native Americans, and because a lot of what we know came from their legend, their stories. And nowadays, there's a lot of people, that, have a lot of different ideas and theories. The Native Americans had nothing to gain, by saying, what they're saying and talking about these creatures. So if I really feel like if I want like the full truth of a situation, I'll research, what they believed and what they saw and what they talked about. So like, anything in like the last 60 years, I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to. Like I've seen it. I have a lot of people ask me about the Gimlin Patterson film, and I'm just like, I've seen it. That's not where I get my research. That's not where I get my my understanding from.
What do you think out of all the cryptids are like the more plausible ones? And some are just, old tales that were made up for other reasons, to keep your kids at home or to, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's fascinating when it comes to the Native American lore, because some of it, from what I understand, was to keep the kids from wandering off into the woods and having a wild animal take them away. But it's crazy because when we're talking about Sasquatch, you have some tribes that say Sasquatch was flesh and blood. Then there's some that say they were spirit and flesh. So I don't necessarily understand that and what they mean by that. But I mean, there's definitely the ones that have stood the test of time has obviously been the hairy man, Sasquatch, what have you, different sea creatures, different lizards lurking in the waters. So as far as I'm concerned, I mean, those would be the most plausible, because I mean, again, those have just been around forever. And all tribes talked about both of them at one point in time. So, some of them I think, nowadays could definitely be, a lot of Hollywood, but if I had to say the two that would stick out in my mind, that would definitely, in my book, say, yeah, these are legit or could be legit, depending on whatever your theory is, or wherever some folks are with their walk with cryptids. I definitely would say it would be anything sea related or Sasquatch related.
I agree with you with the sea related, because we know more about the moon and more about our solar system than we know about our own oceans.
That we do.
And they thought the giant squid was a myth for a very long time. It's not a myth. So yeah, I agree with you 100% there.
Have you ever seen that movie? I think it's called Meg. It was the mega shark. I can't remember who was in it, but I watched it a couple weeks ago, and then I watched it a couple of years ago as well. And it was just it's a theory, and it was just fascinating. But those huge sharks that were said to be extinct now, they ended up where they thought they were at the bottom of the ocean. They ended up, it was just actually gases or something, and it was actually more of like a thick, heavy fog type of area. And when they went down below it, there was all kinds of creatures down there that they hadn't seen for years. And when they ended up coming up back into the regular surface, one of the large mega sharks ended up following them, and it's a whole thing. It's a whole movie. It's a lot of Hollywood with it, but still, to think, like, I don't think that's that far off. I mean, there very well could be areas that we're missing in the water. I mean, the earth is covered with water, and for us to think that we've seen everything under the ocean, I don't know. I just think that's false, and some little irresponsible too, if we for anybody who maybe necessarily feels that way.
Big water scares the crap out of me. That's the one thing, Kenny.
Yeah.
It's like we have the Columbia River here. That thing, it is a giant river. You have the Mississippi here in America. You have the Amazon and we still don't know what all is in there. We know that there are freshwater sharks now
Yeah.
that literally go like a few hundred miles into these rivers. So it's just big water scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Man. That's the one thing that I'm afraid of.
Agreed. And I can swim to save my life in a pool. But other than that, like in anything, any large body of water, man, I'm done for.
The thought of what could be underneath you is just, that's what terrifies me. That's my biggest fear is, falling off a boat. I've never gone on a boat, but, if I do, that'll be my biggest fear.
I'm with you. There's a lake out in the area that I grew up in, and it borders New York. It's Lake Champlain, where Champ is said to reside. And I remember I'm not a big water guy. Like I'll go up to like my waist or whatever, or dunk my head. Other than that, I got friends that be in the middle of the lake, they'll jump out of the boat, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Well, I went to do that one time, and to get on a raft, and they were going to pull me, and as soon as I got in the water, man, something touched my foot. That was it. That was it. I was out of that water. It was probably seaweed. Or it was probably a stick. It could have been my other foot touching. I don't know what it was, but I'll tell you, I jumped out of that water, went back in that boat. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. I can't go into any water barefoot. I have to have some trainers on or something. There's just no way I'm going to step on anything alive or dead or whatever. So
I'll be in a boat, and I'll go out. I'll look for Champ. I'll look for a sea creature, but I won't be that guy strapping that wetsuit on and going underneath the water. No, that's not going to be me. Not at all.
I think I cut you up before about your book. I know you talked to native tribes and stuff, and then you started somehow reaching out to people who'd had experiences. Or did they contact you? Sorry, did they contact you?
No, how it worked was, again, I wanted to stay along the line of not, writing what has already been reported that I know has been reported. Other folks, I wanted to kind of avoid the popular encounters that everybody, already talks about. So I instead of using Google to pull up, Bigfoot encounters, I went on Google and I pulled up Google Maps, pulled up the state, and just kind of zoomed in on areas that were very wooded and just kind of out in the country area, kind of away from the cities. Some of them were closer to the cities than I'd imagined that they would be, but pulled up those towns, zoomed in. Did some research on the businesses that were there. For instance, I targeted diners, mom and pop, corner stores, different areas like that, like barber shops, and just reached out to them and just said, hey, I'm writing a book on, on the state and some Bigfoot encounters. And I heard that there were some in your area, what can you tell me? And if the person I was talking to on the phone hadn't had some type of experience, they knew somebody that had, because again, it's like, where does everybody gather in towns and talk? They do it at the mom and pop, corner stores. They do it at the diners. They do it, at the barber shops. So it worked out so incredibly well. I did have some people that I talked to that, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not talking to this person anymore. I think I'd mentioned this on Bigfoot Odyssey, but I had one gentleman I was talking to, and he's like, oh yeah, I've seen Bigfoot. I've seen many of them. Like, oh really, many? Like, well, how many? He's like, hundreds. And I'm just like, click. Sorry, not gonna have that conversation with you. Most people can't seem to find one, but you seem to see hundreds of them. So in a lot of the encounters, that when I talked to the individuals, I told them, I said, look, once I get the information and I get everything down, I said, I'm just getting rid of, I'm not going to state any names, because a lot of people really didn't want their name on it. They just wanted to just kind of tell somebody about their encounter. And the ones that I went with, there's some in there that have a lot of detail, but then there's also others that don't. And the majority of the ones that I went with were the ones where people were just out in the woods, just doing their thing. They were fishing, or they were hiking, and they came across something that they couldn't explain. Anybody that was like, like if I had like, gotten on the phone with somebody like me, you research Sasquatch, you research Yeti. Well, that's not kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, individuals again that just had an encounter, that weren't looking, didn't expect it. And for me, I'm like, it's gonna add to the book and in the direction of the book, because when writing the book too, I also didn't want to I guess the best way to put it is I kind of also wanted to keep it simple and straightforward, where sometimes when you put too much into it, you look back on it and all you're kind of doing is adding a lot of opinion and a lot of theories that the writer's kind of making up. And I wanted to avoid all that. I just wanted to write a book that was, one, there was going to be some educational value to it, but most of all, it was going to be entertaining, because I'm one of those guys where I'm not going to argue with somebody about theories and different things like that. I got a passion for this subject. I love cryptids, and do I take it seriously? Serious? Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not so serious that I can't have fun with it. And that's what I do. I have a lot of fun with this subject, and and I get it. There's some people that their full living is based off of this, so they take it very serious. I completely understand that, but at the same time, I mean, if you're trying to make a living off of it too, and then all you're doing is arguing with people, I mean, that's not a good thing either. People are gonna not want to buy your books. They're not gonna want to be around you. They're not gonna care if you're on a show, if you're on a TV show, a radio show, if you're gonna be at a festival, a conference. So I just try to have as much fun with it as possible, and just enjoy the subject. And I tell people that all the time. Look, this is a fun subject. Enjoy it. Just enjoy what you're doing.
I used to have a lot of anger about that stuff, Kenny, and I learned I need to start enjoying it and stop. Let the anger go. It's not their fault that they didn't want to help or anything. And I just take it a while, and Daniela's helped too. But I realized that I'll just go out and have fun. Let's just go out and have fun. You're right about that. That's the most important thing.
And the other thing too is I always tell people this. You've probably heard that you never talk, politics or religion with family or friends. Well, in my opinion, religion's been knocked to number 3, and cryptids and paranormal are number 2. They really are. Politics will always be number 1, but I'll tell you, anything cryptid and paranormal is number 2 now. You just don't. It's like you just. I don't know. You can't say anything right. And with me and Gary in the NYBS, the New York Bigfoot Society, we have no problem by saying, using the word theory. Some people have a real problem with that. We have no problem, opinion, saying opinion. And we have no problem saying, I don't know. And I think that's part of the problem nowadays is, everybody, is, kind of believes that they're an expert in what they're thinking now or what they're seeing. And it just creates a lot of fights if somebody, says something the opposite. And I don't judge anybody. I believe I'm about 90% that Sasquatch is flesh and blood. There's still a 10% of me that I don't know. And I've had people that have been like, well, they're paranormal, and they want to argue with me about it. And it's like, okay, well, just like with politics, it's like you're not going to change my mind on Facebook about who I'm voting for. I mean, it doesn't work like that. It's just like, this is just kind of where I'm at. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation, and let's just continue doing what we're doing, and continue being friends and supporting each other. And because in reality, we don't 100% know what's what. And I think I'd mentioned this on Bigfoot Odyssey. I know I mentioned it on a lot of shows that I don't believe that there's an expert out there in this field. I believe that there's professionals. There's people that have been doing it for a long time. But when you start saying this is this and that is that, and there's no accountability to back that up and actually justify it, I'm not going to sit there and tell somebody that their experience wasn't legit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, we it's again, to say, well, I've been doing this for 30 years, that makes me an expert, and if you're attacking me, I mean, it's like, well, you're an expert at not finding Bigfoot then, I guess, because it's 30 years and you found nothing and you're attacking me,
Yeah. I think that phrase, I don't know, it's so easy to use because, when I get invited onto podcasts, I think, oh no, why have they picked me? Because I've got no opinions on it because I don't know. And I could sit here and try and think of a theory of what it could be, but I'm literally one of those. It's like, I'm not even going to waste time trying to work out what it is. I'm more interested in, what's going on and experiences and stuff like that. And I find it very easy to say I don't know, because I don't know. And I think a lot of people, we all don't know what it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people trying
Sure.
to fill time with explanations and stuff. But at the end of the day, we've no idea what it is.
A lot of people feel like they, if they say I don't know, they lose credibility.
Yeah.
And
ridiculous.
For me, it's somebody tells me I don't know. Like, I value their opinion a lot more than somebody that tries to tell me, what they think as truth, not necessarily as, well, this is kind of my idea, my thinking, because again, there's a lot of people that say that, Sasquatch, they say, well, they're extraterrestrial. They very well could be, because there's evidence to suggest that they could have something to do with that. Some people, will say they're 100% paranormal. Again, there's evidence to suggest that they very well could be, but at the same time, we don't 100% know. I mean, one of the, situations that folks will bring to me is like, well, how come, you'll see like, footprints on the ground and then all of a sudden they disappear? And it's a great question. I've done this myself where I've tested that theory, where I've walked across ground that looked exactly the same, and I left footprints, not big ones like a Sasquatch, but I've left footprints. And, I look back at my footprints and there's areas where all of a sudden they stop, and it could very well have to do with whatever the is underneath the ground in that area. It all looks the same, but I could be walking across this solid area and then get to this one point where there's a water bed underneath it, where it's a little bit softer, and I'm not saying that that's what it is, but I can definitely say that I've tested that theory, and I've seen my own footprints disappear. So does that mean that I'm right and everybody else is wrong? Absolutely not. That just means I did a test. I tested something. I researched something, and this is an answer that I received from it. It's by no means in any books, and it doesn't debunk anything either. It just gives another explanation. But when it comes down to it, there's a lot of folks that want to believe so bad that it's easy to just say, okay, well, it's paranormal. It's paranormal, and that explains why you can't find it, and explains this and that. And it's like, okay, well, if that's good for you, if you want to do that, and then just kind of throw in the hat from there. But again, there's individuals who, because they can't explain something, they have to have a reason for it. And they'll say, well, it's extraterrestrial, or it's paranormal, which it could be flesh and blood. It could be paranormal. It could be extraterrestrial. Again, the Native Americans, spoke of, the creature being of spirit and of flesh. What they meant by that, again, I haven't gotten a straight answer on that. So, maybe they are paranormal. I don't know, but to this day, there's a lot of theories. There's a lot of theories out there. There's a lot of really, really good theories, and a lot of really good people out there doing the work and doing the research. And we just as researchers, ourselves, whether and I don't care if it, I appreciate every aspect of research. There's some people that are out in the woods like every other day. I appreciate that. Unfortunately, with the occupation I have, I work 80, 90 hours a week, so I can't get out as much. So I'm I would fall underneath, I guess, the armchair. I guess with running a business during the week as well as being an author, and I don't have an agent anymore. I book all my own events, all my own shows. Producers. I'm the one that does all that work now, so I don't have as much time to get out.
So many people going out though, and with YouTube as well, is all those people that are sat at home maybe can't get out for whatever reason. We're still all on the same level though.
Mm-hmm.
We still all know the same amount of stuff. And, maybe someone's got more time to read stuff on the internet than someone who's always out in the field, sat in the woods. So I think everybody's got something to add to it, and also everything's accessible, all these experiences and things like that. So, I mean, you said before about someone saying they were an expert and they've been doing it 30 years, and you said, well, for 30 years, and it is true, isn't it? I mean, for 50 years, we're not any further with finding anything about this, anything else about this creature. What has to change? How are we gonna? How do you think we can change the course of research or finding this thing? Or
I think that there's so much in what folks do nowadays that like the show. I love the show Finding Bigfoot, but Finding Bigfoot also made what we do mainstream. So now everybody's doing it, and everybody's going out into the woods, and whether they know what they're doing or they don't know what they're doing. So I'd say that there's a lot of Hollywood now in what folks are doing when they go out into the woods. Finding Bigfoot taught us a lot of different things that the researchers were doing, I picked up some stuff from it, even though I had never I'd never heard of tree knocks. I never I'd heard of tree knocks. I just never seen anybody do it until I saw it on TV. Different things like that. And I remember again, in regards to Hollywood and TV, one day I was sitting watching TV, and the show Ghost Hunters came on, and I'm watching it. I remember thinking to myself, what is this? I'm like, this is weird, and then, I watched it and kind of got into it. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is like a reality TV, but yet, there's truth to what these guys are doing. And I'm like, I didn't realize people actually did that. I had no clue that people actually did that. I grew up loving the Ghostbuster movies, but I just thought that was a movie. I never realized people actually went into houses and went into places and did that. And, I knew that people went out and performed, Sasquatch searches and different aspects like that. But again, there's, since Finding Bigfoot came out, it seems like when Ghost Hunters came out, all of a sudden now everybody's a paranormal investigator. Now everybody's a Bigfoot researcher, because there's no schooling. There's no, you give yourself the title is what you do. And I don't know. I think, in order to, you're right when you say it's kind of like we've kind of gone backwards. I think that there's so many people that are involved in it right now, just because they kind of want to, again, start up a team and kind of feel like they're part of something that, they're kind of going out into the woods, and they're not really doing the work. They're just kind of going out and just kind of being out in the woods, and then coming back and then posting videos on YouTube, posting, pictures of, blurry this and that. And it's just, it's made a lot of, it's in reality taken a lot of the research that folks have done and kind of, I guess, taking it backwards to a degree.
Too many cooks spoil the broth.
Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, and I don't fault anybody, because, they're not true. I mean, yes, there's people out there that are fake and stuff and this and that, but they're out there trying it out and seeing, how it goes. But, the thing is, because they've got a Facebook page that, a lot of them see it as a platform to, as in like, hey, I'm important. And then they'll just start putting stuff out there and put a lot of people off. But at the same time, I've always said it like this, because a lot of people have said to me, well, you should never, say that, you love the show Finding Bigfoot because nobody will take you serious because this and that. And, you'll lose followers. People won't buy your books. And I just said, you know what? The only person that can actually do that it is me. Not saying that because I like a show. Okay. It's my actions, how I go about what I do, and how I treat other people. It's totally up to me. If people follow me, it's again, the respect. If I give them respect, they're going to continue to follow me. I guess the best way to put it, if I'm a human being and I act like a human being and I'm not any better than anybody else, I'm not going to lose anything.
No, you can watch what you want. You can like what you want. I mean, why should it bother anybody?
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing about it. So some of the and now you do go out and research. You have done. You've gone out. How do you feel about gifting? Do you think it's a good, and especially with food? Do you think this is like a realistic thing to do with food?
If you asked me that question about 8 months ago, I'd be like, eh. But now, to be honest with you, this last spring, we put up some trail cams in our area that we research, and we put food right in front of them. I mean, we put like Cheerios, different snacks and stuff, to try it out and kind of see what happens. One of the things that we do when we're researching, like we focus more on the woods, the area, and the animal behavior than we do trying to, knock on trees and do different things like that, because the woods are going to tell us, the animals are going to tell us what's going on. So we put food in front of the cameras, and for like 2 weeks, absolutely nothing. I mean, we went back. The food was all still there in the woods. I mean, there's squirrels, there's raccoons everywhere. There was absolutely everything was there. Everything was still there. Some of it was soggy from it raining, but other than that, everything was still there. And that was for 2 weeks. So we left it out there again and left the cameras up. Came back 2 weeks later. Everything was completely gone. There was all kinds of animal activity on the camera, squirrels, raccoons, whatever. It was so, for us, we're looking at that. Okay, how is that significant to what we're doing? Well, is that was there an alpha predator in that area at that point in time that kept the animals away, that was maybe passing through, maybe hanging out there, not meaning it was a Bigfoot, not meaning it was a Sasquatch. It could be a bear, it could be a coyote, it could be what have you. But the big thing for us is that told us something, that there was something there regardless. And we did end up finding in that camp area where we set up those cameras, we did find in two different areas, a 13-inch print in the ground. And when we say we found a print, it actually has to be a print and not just kind of like an outline or just kind of like it has to be an actual print, and us be able to distinguish that before we would even say that. And this was right in our camp, in the camp area that we set up. And then the other one was probably, I don't know, maybe 50 yards away and exactly the same size. So it's kind of leading us to believe that, because we do know that, we've heard that there's Sasquatches in the air. I personally have never seen one, but there is activity going on in that area. We didn't get anything on any of the cameras, but we did, find, different other reasons to believe that something did walk through, our camp. And so yes, I mean, that's kind of how we do our research, and it's a lot of it is based off of, the surroundings. Instead of trying to base our surroundings off of Bigfoot, it's the other way around. If we're going to find a Sasquatch, if they migrate or they're coming through the area at a certain time, a certain day of the week, you know, the cameras are going to show us that, the animal activity is going to show us that, and you know, other aspects of the location.
Yeah, you're right, Kenny, especially about, I think that what needs to happen also that will help a lot is, instead of saying this conference is woo and this conference is for the people who believe they're apes and physical, combine them, let the people come in and talk about it, and without messing with each other about it.
Yeah.
Because I want you to convince me why you think they're spiritual or that they're orbs. I want you to convince me why what I saw was physical. But I still, if you can convince me, I want to listen to you. Yeah. And I think if they could do that and not have all the arguing and the stupid stuff that's involved in this. And I also agree, all these guys, and I've been doing this 40 years and 50 years and 30 years and 20 years, and you ain't got nothing to show. And so, you know, that's, to me, I wouldn't say that. I just wouldn't say that. With my own experience, it's you just go camping and enjoy camping and just be normal. That's how they came to us. And they were violent too. So, I mean, that doesn't mean all of them were violent either. But I think that we need to combine and quit arguing online about this kind of stuff, and give everyone a chance to ask questions without, at these conferences, if you ask the wrong question, they'll just kick you out. You should be able to ask the questions. I want you to prove it to me. And that's the way it should be.
Bomb made a good point, and this is what I was thinking before. This is going back to, you know, about how many channels are out there, how many people are doing stuff. And, you know, newbies to this subject are listening to the people who are putting facts out, you know, the opinions as facts. And it just gets repeated, doesn't it? These stories have been going around for, what's that one, Jay, that you say, the same one as Kerry says, where they hunt a mile apart, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. So somehow somebody knows that they come out of the mountains and they hunt a mile apart. How the heck do you, who can even, how many people would you have to actually have eyes on them? And then say they hunt a mile apart when they come down. And no, you can't. Here's the thing I have a problem with, and I'm not trying to eat up your time, Kenny.
No, don't worry about it.
I don't like matter of fact speaking about these things. I compare finding Bigfoot, although those are good people. I find no different than the ghost shows where they, well, if you're out there looking for this kind of stuff, why are you so screwed up about it when you claim you've already had all the encounters and all this other stuff? It's all about getting us to watch, okay? That's why I don't watch anything. I'm not a part of any group. After what happened to me and my wife, I still don't get answers. I still can't get answers from any of these people. So, and I've only had 3 encounters in my life, but the last one changed my life forever. And so I just wonder, these people, they need to stop. I'm afraid someone's actually going to get hurt or killed because the information is not there. We can't say, well, this guy says they're taking children, but this guy says they're so friendly that I'll walk in between you and the Sasquatch just to prove to you all this. We need to come to some sort of a learning type of thing. I've read so many things that people have to put out there that I can't even prove what happened to us. All I can tell you is I'm on medication for it. And, you know, it just, I get upset about that kind of stuff, but I'm learning. I think if we just get together and start talking about it, that maybe we can solve something here. We can at least get going on something. We got 50 some years and people were looking for these things before then. Yeah. But actively since that film came out. So you can't say, well, here's one in a field. And as a hunter, and I hunted this morning for elk, I saw about 12 tracks going and then they're gone. So I've seen it with deer too. So, you know, with the Sasquatch tracks, it doesn't bother me that I don't see where they went, because I can't see where the elk went or the deer either.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. We got to kind of we have to first kind of approach it from a human standpoint. We're respecting each other,
Mhm.
and it's I mean, we don't really, Gary and I talk about this all the time, like we don't really even know what we're doing. If somebody's, doing a tree knot, why are we even doing that? What are we even saying? People that are doing, these howls and this and that in these calls, what are you even saying? You don't even know what you're saying. And, so, you very well could get attacked. I mean, you just gotta, I guess maybe howl the wrong thing. I don't know. I don't, I don't do the calls and the yells. That's just not, not my thing. I'm more of a, going out and just kind of sitting there and listening, just watching and seeing what's going on. I do believe in, Gary's mentioned this a lot, that we're kind of, when it comes to, Sasquatch, that we're their entertainment and they do watch us from a distance. And I believe that. I just, in my opinion, if something is trying to stay away, and not be found and not be seen, I just don't understand why yelling is gonna actually bring them in.
Well,
I
that's
just
bring them to your camp. Yeah.
I mean, I just don't, but again, that doesn't mean that I'm saying that anybody that does it is wrong. I just don't understand it. And, I'm, every time I'm on one of these shows, I get the emails after, well, you don't because of this and that. And, and this is why I say the same thing on, on the shows, like any show that you ever watch that I'm on, I'm always saying the same things because I'm not trying to, impress any host or anything like that. Just come on and just talk about, my experiences and what I do. And, just just have fun with it because I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, again, at midnight, I'm not going to be out in the woods just screaming and yelling. I'm just not going to. I don't know how that would bring anything in. I know me personally, if I was out in the woods and I hear something yelling and screaming, 9 times out of 10, we don't go running towards it. We go the opposite direction because we don't necessarily know what it is and what its intentions are. So, I mean, as we knock down more woods and, these creatures start having less area to hide in, I think we've got to be a little more respectful of them. And, we've already probably upset them by taking away a lot of their area that they live, their homes. And, so we got to be respectful and we got to be careful when we're out in the woods because, they're going to eventually get sick of, us taking their homes, this and that. And, again, with us yelling and we don't even know what we're saying, it's a bad combination, I believe.
Mm. I think all of it, just the way we think, isn't it? It's like the structures, like, or the crosses, like there's supposed to be a message to us. Some people think that. Why on earth would they think we would understand what they were trying to say? It just doesn't make sense, does it? But we go along with it all because everybody's kind of, it's this kind of motion going, isn't it, with it?
Yeah.
And almost like like a river running.
Yeah.
And the current's so strong that you get caught up in all the debris and everything. And I don't know, we've talked about this, Jay, haven't we? And with Leon and Brent, that, there needs to be a place where people can go to have a real discussion about what we know and what we don't know. And to kind of, I mean, yeah, it's like a massive job, isn't it? I think we said this the other night, Kenney, when we're talking. If we can attract those people to us, that's better than trying to change the current, because we're not going to be able to change that current. It's too strong. But people do need to really think more about what they're being told and what they're watching, and think about the person who's actually there and how involved they are in what they're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, you can get carried away with things. I watched something the other night and a tree had gone over and someone said a tree's been pushed over. If you haven't seen the tree being pushed over, how do you know it hasn't just fallen down? It's just those little things which create a story, or a narrative, which could be completely wrong, completely,
Yeah, I mean, we always try to approach things, from a logical, point of view. There's a lot of explanations for why we see certain trees and branches and bends. It's a matter of looking into all the different reasons of why it could happen. And people will be like, they'll post something up, well, the person whatever did this had thumbs. Okay, well, yeah, it very well could have been, because it could have been another research group that was out there 2 weeks prior that had set something up. I mean, we've got areas that we go into, and Gary's big into it. He's a bushwhacker. I mean, we'll get on a trail, and we'll be on a trail for like 23 seconds, and then he pulls us off of it, and we just go deep into the woods. And and he builds different structures in a sense, as in to try to kind of disrupt the area a little bit, just enough to if there's something living there, that it kind of gets its attention. And at the end of the season, when it starts to snow, this and that, like he'll take things down, he'll put it back to the way it was. But we'll leave stuff up for weeks and months at a time, and I'm sure probably if there's other people that have come through that area, they've maybe taken a picture of something that we built and put up and said, hey, look, here's a Bigfoot structure. I mean, there's so many people out in the woods right now. There's so many people, that are out there. Again, they saw a show. They're like, this sounds cool. They talked to their buddies. They all liked it. They came up with a name for a group, got matching T-shirts, and now they're out in the woods, So, I mean, there's so many people out there. And then with COVID, when you can't go anywhere, the only place that you can actually go in is into the woods. You just got to be careful too, because there was a lot of, forest state parks and woods and stuff like that you weren't allowed to go into during COVID, which was kind of crazy to me, because that's, you should be able to go, at least go outside and go in the woods. But, so, I mean, it's you can look at it from a point of view, again, like we said earlier, about enjoying what we do, having fun with it, learning as we go, keeping the passion, and not letting the aspects about it, which, if I had to say the aspects about this subject that bothered me the most, obviously would be other people, because of their attitudes towards it and wanting to always be right. But I don't know. I got thick skin, so nothing really bothers me or gets to me. And if whatever anybody else's experiences are that they've had, I'm not belittling them or taking any credit from it, or taking anything from it. If that's your experience, that's your experience. It's just like, with the book I wrote, with, the encounters that I put in there, I had many people asking, well, how do you know that they're telling you the truth? I don't. How do you, unless it's your experience, you don't know. Even if it's your best friend, you still don't know. If it's your best friend, they're probably not lying to you or exaggerating. But at the same time, unless it's your personal experience, you experienced it, you don't 100% know. I mean, all these sightings and encounters that people claim to have, it's their claim, it's their experience. And there's unless there's there's cameras there that nobody knew about, we can look at them and see and go, oh yeah, this is legit. That's the only way. Other than that, it's experiences. And you just, if people want to argue with each other over it, well, then those are the people that are always going to be miserable, and that are always, who should get off Facebook, I guess I should say.
Yeah. Like I say, they get too serious about it, and it's just not worth getting serious. Like I say, have fun with it rather than try and kill some people. Murray Fisher's got a really good tactic here. Just paint a rock with silver paint. If it comes back through your window, you make contact.
Wow. Yeah, I guess so.
So, maybe try that one. I don't know.
I'm not going to try that one. I'm not. I appreciate that, but yeah, I'm certainly not going to try. I mean, I live in the suburbs, so if one comes out here anyways, it would be very everybody would see it.
Gary Johnson, does the Bigfoot world play mind games with its viewers?
It does. I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've kind of covered that, I think. So tell us a little bit about the the link for your book is in the description. If someone please put that in the live chat, please. And tell us a little bit about the radio that you do with Gary. When does that go out? When do you do that?
Yeah, well, we've kind of because of Halloween, because Gary is founder of the Tri-City Paranormal New York Society, so we haven't really done any radio shows since, like, I'd say maybe the beginning of September, because it's all just kind of been like Halloween paranormal shows that he's been doing. So we are wrapping up our third season, and normally we would do one every other week. We get together, we talk about, what we found in the woods, what projects we're working on. We have guests on. We've added a few different people, to the group. One lives in like Southern New York, one lives in Western New York, because I mean, New York's it's a large state, so when we get encounters in certain areas, obviously, we can't just go to every single one of them. So we've got different people staged in different areas. So we'll have them on. Again, we'll have different guests on, and just talk with them about kind of like what we're doing tonight, what they're doing. And when we don't have guests, we just talk about, whatever research we had, what we came across, what happened that we can't explain. And that's pretty much it. For the most part, we keep, our guests, from New York. Like if it's like an encounter, we keep them from New York, but we kind of stopped that. We've kind of branched out more because there's a lot of people that wanted to, talk about their encounter, because they felt comfortable talking to Gary, or they felt comfortable talking, to me. So they wanted to come on the show, and it kind of maybe be like their first show where they talk about their encounter. So, we branched off, and we brought guests in from out of state as well. Like we had Ken Gerhard come on the show. Our good friend Wayne from Manimal Research has come on, and he's down south somewhere. I don't remember exactly where.
We had Wayne and Rick on Researchers Report a few months ago.
Oh, okay. Okay, excellent.
It was quite a while ago, actually. I think when they just started up.
Yeah,
but then, guys.
Well, yeah, Wayne's a great guy, and I really appreciate him and what he's been doing and what he's trying to accomplish. And he's another one of those guys that's just like straightforward and has no problem saying I don't know, and he's been he's a good guy. I haven't actually talked to him in a while. I'll have to reach out to him.
Yeah, they're busy. They're always posting stuff, so. Mm-hmm. They're at it all the time. So you've not had a Sasquatch experience. Have you had any paranormal, UFO, any experience?
I mean, I've seen stuff up in the sky that's just sitting there, and then all of a sudden it darts off. Different things like that over the years. Paranormal, no. I mean, I guess yes and no. I usually, if I encounter anything that I might think is, or there's something that's kind of near me, or there's an area, I just avoid it. So I'm not a paranormal guy. I'm not a ghost guy, demon guy, nothing like that. I try to avoid all that. I mean, there's times where we, have different experiences. Again, I think we talked about this on the last time was, about like, the lights in the woods and, showing up for absolutely no reason. And, there's no swamp gases, there's nothing, there's just no reason for it to be there. Lights in areas that we were just researching, and we're now 200 yards away from that exact area that we were in. And there's a light there now for some reason. Can't explain it. That would be probably the closest to paranormal that I've come to, or even want to come to. So, and that's the other reason too why I hope to God that Sasquatches aren't paranormal, because then I'll have to start doing something else, because I don't want anything to do with that. Yeah.
Well, Jay, you think they're, well, they're flesh and blood, but you also saw an orb at the same time, didn't you?
I did, that very night.
That's a weird.
During in the middle of the night, and it was about the size of a football, and it was clear, and it was moving like a giant bubble that some kid would blow with one of those wands, but it was illuminated red on the outside, and I could tell it was alive, and I wasn't afraid of it as a thing. I was scared out of my mind from the Sasquatch, but that orb, I wasn't afraid of it at all. It just made me mad, because I just like, what more can I go through tonight? I didn't know what to do or anything. I'm trying to come to grips with a lot of the things that happened, like dealing with that giant red Sasquatch to the left in my peripheral vision that stayed there seemed like forever. I try to spend a lot of time thinking to try to get well and figuring out, I just don't know what went wrong that night. I didn't do anything wrong. So that I know of, but since we don't know them here, I can't speak. Like I'm not an expert. I don't know what happened just because I saw one. And that's another thing. I want you guys on the chat and everybody else that's listening to know that just because I saw one, I don't know anything about them. Okay. All I know is it scared the crap out of me. That's all I know. I know that they've come to us a few times since then, not ever letting us see them, but throwing little rocks in the drink and things like that. So I can't imagine spirits doing that, but I just don't want to open up a box of get the bad stuff. I don't know. And I'm just not an expert. And I know that just screwed with me a lot I'd heard about orbs, but I just couldn't believe that when I saw it, so it just, I wasn't afraid though. That's the thing. I just wasn't afraid of that. I'm scared to death of the Sasquatch. So I respect them now, and I'm not afraid to go in the forest. I won't go alone. I won't go alone ever again, or unarmed. But and that doesn't mean I'm going to shoot one. All I'm saying is that, I'm not going to go unarmed.
Yeah.
As far as I understand, they know what guns are and things like that. I have Native Americans in my family, and they'll tell us that they tell me that the Sasquatch call them fire sticks. I don't know how they come by that, but I trust what the Native Americans have to say.
Yeah. Agreed. Yep.
Well, what's next for you, Kenney? What are you on with?
Well, right now, just continuing to work on a couple publications that are going to be released in 2021. I got Folklore Frankenstein's 2 that I'm working on, called International Lore. It's the same type of outline as Folklore Frankenstein's, but I'm not doing. There's nothing related to the United States. It's all countries. So I've been working on that. I've got a book that I wrote back in 2014 that was released under a different publishing company. And I still luckily own the rights to it. So I'm going to be rebranding that and releasing that in 2021. And just rebooking all the events that got canceled this year for next year. So, because every single one of them got canceled. So I wasn't able to be anywhere. So next year, 2021, I'll be in Washington State. I'll be in Indiana. I'll be in Virginia. I'll be in Maine, possibly in Texas. But yeah, just going through and just getting everything, you know, rebooked. And there's I'm looking at more filming for some TV shows in 2021. I was just in New York City back in August filming for one. So, you know, there's a lot going on, and, you know, again, I'm having fun with it and just enjoying it and looking forward to, you know, being able to get out and actually see people, you know, face to face. And, you know, right now I've got, you know, thousands of virtual friends online, and I need to get out to those conferences and festivals and see people, you know, face to face, you know, and shake people's hands and tell them I appreciate the, you know, the support, and you know, and just looking forward to 2021 and, you know, all the activity that's rolling out. So hopefully it's, you know, you know, they keep the conferences this year. I know a lot of places did have still hold conferences. I wasn't part of them. But, you know, there's, because of social distancing and everything, you know, there was, you know, it was a smaller amount of folks that were able to come out, and which is good, because, you know, for the individuals who, you know, this is their occupation. It was good that they didn't get canceled, because, you know, they were able to, you know, see their fans, sell some books, you know, get some revenue to help sustain their lives.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at right now, and just learning more, learning more from Gary, and just getting to that next level.
Yeah. Well, look, there's your book. It's there's a link in the description. If anyone wants to go and check that out on Amazon, go and check it out. I've also put a link to Kenney's Facebook page. So if you want to keep on top of what he's doing and his books and any conferences that are coming up, go and check him out there. Well, thanks for coming on. We enjoyed chatting to you tonight. I'm not going to go any further because you're back on the Researchers Report in a few weeks in December.
Yeah.
So we'll save a little bit for then.
Sure.
Because we're doing it again, aren't we? With Gary. She'll be good because we didn't get much chance over Halloween. Jay, thank you as always.
Hey, Kenney, when you come to Washington State, will you please look me up? I want to take you up to Mount St. Helens, where pretty much all began. That's where I live. I would love to host a weekend with you or something. I'll feed you and everything. I want to show somebody this area where this all happened. I would love to take you up there. So if you,
I would love that. And
Russell just couldn't put on the international this year because of the COVID. So I'm sure he's very excited about getting it going again.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's where I was going to be. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you to the chat for the birthday wishes. And thank you for your participation. It really makes a difference. You guys are awesome. I love this chat. These guys are incredible.
The chat are great. So, yeah, thank you to everyone in the chat tonight. Do we have any questions? I'm not sure, but you made some odd comments, and that's good. I'll be here tomorrow night with Jason, obviously, for Anything Goes. I might be on twice tomorrow. I just need to sort out some fine details. But thanks again, Kenney. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon, I guess. Good night, everyone.
Welcome to the Bigfoot Cafe. What's on the menu? Everything.
It's food for thought.